Hello all, welcome to the new Simply Put series by Kalam IAS Academy. This is Priyanka Mahapatra, faculty at Kalam IAS. So today we'll be having a discussion on the newspaper dated 28th of February 2024. So coming to the text and the context section of the Hindu newspaper, one article was very important from your GS paper 3 perspective about why science needs sustainable funding. Then comes the explain section of the Indian Express newspaper. Another article was important about the first human space flight mission, and we'll be learning all the details about it. So these are the two articles that we are going to discuss today. It is displayed on your screen. So the first article is about that our Prime Minister Narendra Modi, he has announced the name of 4 astronauts for the Gaganyaan mission. These astronauts would be Group Captain Prashant Balakrishnan Nair, Group Captain Ajit Krishnan, Group Captain Angad Pratap, and Wing Commander Subhanshu Shukla. You can see them in this picture. Okay, so they would be going for the Gaganyaan mission. Gaganyaan mission, as you all know, it would be the first manned space mission of India. But at this year end, we would be initiating the unmanned Gaganyaan first mission only to check the technology readiness so that the final mission, that is the manned mission, can be sent off. Okay, so this manned mission will fly a 3-membered crew into the low Earth orbit (LEO) at an altitude of 400 kilometers for a period of 3 days. Then all the 4 astronauts are from Indian Air Force. They are the Indian Air Force officers which have had extensive experience as test pilots. Then going back to history, in 1984 also, Wing Commander Rakesh Sharma became the first Indian in space. Okay, this fact is very important to remember for your prelims exam. But here also you should remember that he did not go by a Indian spacecraft. Rather, he went by a Soviet spacecraft to Salyut 7 space station. Okay, in 2006, India started the work on an orbital vehicle mission that was later named as Gaganyaan. Then coming to the launch vehicle, ISRO would be using GSLV Mach 3 or LVM3 rocket for all the Gaganyaan mission because this is the ISRO's most powerful launch vehicle that has flown 7 times without failure. This rocket consists of liquid stage, which is named as Vikas engine, solid stage, and cryogenic stage. And what are the preparations for the human space flight? Yes, there will be a life support system to provide an Earth-like environment for the crew in space. There will be emergency escape provision. There will be a crew management aspect to it, such as training, recovery, rehabilitation of the crew. Then coming to the sequence, first we will be sending one unmanned mission, but that will be an unpressurized crew module. That means it will not have any environment control or life support system because that is still under testing. Only to check the safe re-entry of the crew module and proper orientation of the module when it splashes down in the sea, this first unmanned mission will be sent off. Then second unmanned flight will be sent off. It is planned only to check the complete life support system. Okay, that is the pressurized crew module. Okay, and it would also carry the robot Vyom Mitra that will record all the parameters to study the impact of flight on humans. Then drog chutes. This is also a component of the spacecraft that has essential role in stabilizing the crew module and reducing the velocity to a safe level during re-entry into the Earth. Okay, they will bring the crew module from the height of 17 km and the speed of 150 meter per second to 2.5 km from the sea surface and the speed of 63 meter per second. Okay, this is only to stabilize the crew module and reduce its velocity for the safe re-entry into the Earth. Okay, this is the aim of drog chutes. Then coming to the training of the astronauts, 4 astronauts, they have already completed their training at Russia's Yuri Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center between February 2020 to March 2021, and one of these 4 astronauts would be trained at NASA also. Then comes the second article, that why sustainable funding matters for India's science power ambition. So what is the ambition? India has intended to become a developed country by 2047, and without science and technological developments, it is difficult to become one. Okay, so for science and technological developments, we need a sustainable funding for that. And why this is in news? Because today is National Science Day, which carries the theme of science for sustainable development. But we have seen that funding for the fundamental research that has been witnessed in India, it is among the world's lowest. It is only 0.6% of the GDP now, and it has been continuously dropping year by year, from 0.8% in 2008-9 to 0.7% in 2017-18 to now that is only 0.64% of the GDP. But we have highlighted, we have showcased our goal to increase the gross expenditure on R&D, that is GERD, to 2%, as emphasized in the 2013 STIP, that is Science, Technology and Innovation Policy, and also 2017-18 Economic Survey. So what are the reasons for the low spending on R&D? First is that there is lack of coordination between the government agencies. There are lack of coordination between the government ministries, between the Ministry of Finance and the concerned ministries. For that, we are witnessing a delay in the disbursement of the funds. There is lack of prioritization. So there is a lack of political will now to prioritize the R&D expenses. Again, there is a primary dependence on the public money, on the government money for the R&D expenses, which signals a very immature financing system and weak domestic market. Because in economically developed countries, the private sector contributes around 70% of the R&D investment. 70% on average of the R&D investment comes from the private sector. But in case of India, it is only 36.4% of the GERD, according to 2020-21. Whereas the union government share was 43.7%. So we are not able to harness the private sector investments. Then what are the reasons for this hesitancy of the private sector funding in India? First is the poor capacity to evaluate the R&D in India. So the investors, they are quite unsure that how well the companies are evaluating their risk, their potential rewards of their research and development efforts. So if the investors are unsure that how well the companies are evaluating their risk, then how will they invest in that company? Then second is regarding the regulatory roadmaps, the ambiguous regulatory roadmaps that is deterring the investors. Then there is lack of clear exit options also for the investors in sectors like biotechnology. So the investors are quite unsure that how will they take out their money after they are seeing that this investment is going bad. The investment is going into loss. Then they have fears of intellectual property rights theft in India also, because they may be concerned that their ideas or inventions will be stolen if they invest in R&D in India, because there is a historical perception that enforcement is not so rigorous in India than in other countries. And India has also got a reputation for the counterfeit products across various industries. So this raises a concern about the company's unique innovations that can be copied and sold illegally, damaging their potential profits. Okay, so these are the concerns of the private sector. That is why they are hesitating to invest, to give their funding to the Indian companies. Then comes the reason with respect to the governance. What are the issues with respect to the governance? The reason is there is underutilization of its budget by the Union Ministry of Science and Technology. For example, in 2022-23, the Department of Biotechnology has used only 72% of its estimated budget allocation on the centrally sponsored schemes, while the Department of Science and Technology has only used 61%. So there is underutilization of the budget. And what are the reasons behind it? First is the tedious bureaucratic processes for approving the disbursement of the funds. Then there is lack of capacity to evaluate the projects or to clear the utilization certificates. Then there is lack of prioritization also seen for the science funding by the Ministry of Finance. There is inadequate planning or inadequate implementation strategy for the requested funds by the Ministry of Science and Technology, and the lack of capacity also results in the delay in the grants and the salary disbursements. So these are the reasons why there is underutilization of the budget. Then coming to the international experience, what other developed countries are spending on R&D. So most of the developed countries are spending between 2% to 4% on their R&D, while the OECD is spending on average 2.7% of the GDP on R&D according to 2021, whereas the US and UK are spending more than 2% for the past decade. So here comes the importance to improve the R&D spending. So for India to reach the developed nation status by 2047, we need to spend at least 3% of the GDP on R&D annually. We need to scale up the R&D expenditure than the developed countries in order to maintain that status of developed nation. Okay, then we need to also strengthen the budget utilization. Okay, we need to mitigate the underspending and the underutilization of the funds earmarked for R&D. We need to prioritize the R&D spending with respect to the concerned ministries and also the Ministry of Finance, which disburses the funds. Then we need to also incentivize the private investment and the relaxation of foreign investments, tax rebates, clear regulatory roadmaps for the products. It will help build the investor confidence. So as we have seen that most of the funding should be coming from the private sector. Government should not be investing so much of its money on R&D. Okay, in order to incentivize, in order to attract the private sector investment, we need to take certain steps like we should be relaxing the FDIs, we should be giving them tax rebates, we should be clearing the regulatory roadmaps for the products. Then also we need to enhance the bureaucratic capacity so that they can evaluate the science projects, they can monitor the utilization of the funds. So building such capacity will be an important factor for India becoming a science power by 2047. So these are the important points for way forward in case you need to write an answer for the sustainable funding. Okay, so this is very, very important for this year mains. Please update your notes with the recent facts, with the recent case studies. Okay, so that your answer looks very updated and very relevant.